Hi, I'm Adarius Phillips, and the title of my paper is Disindigenous Land Acknowledgements. Organizers, politicians, and community leaders in recent years have engaged in a growing trend to acknowledge indigenous people before an event. Like the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem, land acknowledgements are read at the onsite of a public event to pay tribute to indigenous people and their cultural practices. The purpose is to make public aware that the institution or organization hosting the event recognizes the space in which the event is taking place, honors the culture in which the practice is derived. It is an attempt to show the event could not happen without the land currently occupied. While recognizing indigenous cultures, it is important to understand the history. The act of acknowledgement before an event has been criticized as hypocrisy. How much meaningful conversation can be had by placing them at the beginning of the event, especially when the event typically has nothing to do with the mandated acknowledgement? The argument can be made that without intending to build relationship with indigenous people, a call to action, land acknowledgements, or futile attempts for organizers, politicians, and institutions to sound culturally and politically affluent. The act of acknowledgement calls attention to the land which indigenous people hold in high esteem. In many indigenous cultures, as the people gather together, they ask the land for permission to occupy their territory, a way in which they recognize the symbolic link between the land and the people. The conflict of interest becomes an issue when you have the privilege making land acknowledgments when argument can be said, therefore, fathers are responsible for occupying the land without permission. It can come across as disindigenous, begging the question of whether they're truly remorseful or merely trying to check off a political mandate with the land acknowledgement. If the land wasn't taken by force, would the privilege politician or institution be standing in a position of leadership to acknowledge the occupied land? If there is no intention on giving the land back to the people it was originally taken from, does the land acknowledgement aid in validating the occupier's authority? Or is it a humble brag? The acknowledgement is meant to address invisibility and introspection and create alliances. The act of acknowledgement introduces the topic and can create awareness in the minds of an audience that don't know a lot about indigenous people or their culture. However, if there is no visible presence of the indigenous people, then the argument can be made that they are not addressing the invisibility of the indigenous culture. The act of the land acknowledgement can cause people to think about privileges that they have in their current life, that the indigenous people seeing them who are most affected by colonialism only makes for a greater impact for change and address the invisibility of the indigenous culture. Not enough importance is in place righting our wrongs from the past. It seems to be more emphasis on getting to the next phase of the event. This is an inherent problem with colonialism. Progress trumps the people. It is in that formation of the statement that the healing process must take shape. To be accurate in the land acknowledgement, the institution is supposed to reach out to the indigenous people of the land and build relationships. The impetus behind a land acknowledgement is the thoughtfulness and the mindfulness. Taking the time to build relationships aids in the accuracy of the land acknowledgement. It is the building of relationships with the institutions to learn how to be mindful. Without understanding of the cultural practices, there is no accuracy. Without accuracy, there is no honor. Institutions are trying to get this right. Some schools have been fighting for Indigenous days, the land acknowledgements. Southern University Law School created a Indigenous Day, and to this day are fighting for laws for the indigenous culture, for them to understand the laws so they can fight to get their land back. And also, retrospect, we as a people need to understand and learn more about the culture for our children so it don't get lost. Southern University was the first historically black college to take interest in indigenous people. And it's strange because indigenous people and people of color have had some of the same struggles throughout history. But it's only one HBCU that's taken interest in the indigenous land acknowledgments. Hopefully that can be a starter for other HBCUs and other schools and to get more aware so our generation and our kids' generation can get more fluently in indigenous people's cultures and understanding their struggle and understanding the land that we're on or not ours. Land acknowledgement should be an opportunity to learn about the history, culture of indigenous people. When institutions doesn't take advantage of that opportunity, they miss the point. If you're going to take the time to start the conversation, then you accept the responsibility to move the conversation forward. Land acknowledgments do a good job of raising the critical consciousness of the audience, but only for a brief moment. Let's follow up. It deserves as much thoughtfulness as the action. Us as the audience should know what the next steps are. Let's reach out to our politicians. Let's reach out to whoever we need to put this as a forefront for the call of action for land acknowledgments. Thank you.